So UFC 281 happened on the weekend. Alex Pereira beat Israel Adesanya convincingly, I think, towards the end of the 5th round. And it was awesome. It was kind of like a Leon Edwards type scenario where he came out. He had that talk in the corner in between the 4th and the 5th round. And he came out with the Rocky moment. And he absolutely lamped Israel all over the shop. Israel's head was bouncing all over the octagon like a basketball. I think it was a good call for the referee, Mark Goddard, to step in and put a stop to it because he was lumped all over the place. What has happened and what has transpired in the aftermath of that, again, like I continuously talk about on this channel, complete and utter shillery by the media. Delusional shillery, I might add. The narrative all of a sudden was not a positive one towards Alex Pereira and what he achieved, but it was more so copium by Israel himself, which I was kind of disappointed with. Not surprisingly, the media jumped all over it. So the narrative that has been sent out into the ether that is just spreading nice and slowly is that Alex Pereira can't beat anyone within the top 5 of this division. Interesting. It's been put out there by Brendan Schaub. I don't know what to say about Brendan Schaub. You know, I don't want to be disparaging about him because I really do like his content over the years and I've watched him a lot. But again, this is another bad take by him, and you have to kind of ask yourself the question, is it a case, I've got bad takes all the time, is it a case that people just, you know, given the day, given the opinion, given what they have just read or what they're kind of shilling for, does that compound their opinion? We have Brendan Schaub declares Alex Pereira couldn't beat a single guy in the top 5. And what I want to do, because I found it hysterical, is look at the first 2 or 3 comments. It's always a good gauge of how a tweet is doing in terms of whether it's kind of being accepted by the general public. And we usually get the smart people who only have maybe 10 followers that come straight in and comment. And this one was brilliant. So obviously this guy says he just did, which is again correct. And here's the comment of the day from Combat Sports Insider. He just beat the champ and beat Strickland, who was ranked inside the top 5. So by virtue of that statement, he has already beaten someone within the top 5 and he just demolished the champion. Can we agree on that? Are we in a place where we can agree on it? I see loads of people have done breakdowns of the fight and he was down 3-1 going into the 5th round. I don't see the respect being given for him recovering after that solid 1-2 at the end of round 1. I guess for surviving on the ground after Adesanya used his brain and decided to grapple, because that is a good option against him, and against solid grapplers that is going to be an interesting fight, I will say that. In terms of fighters that want to stand up and bang, this dude's got heavy hands, man. I saw the knockout against Sean Strickland, who I love. It was kind of like a hook come jab. And I was like, that was really easy. It didn't look super powerful at all. And down Strickland went like a wet shit. I was thinking, man, this guy must have serious heavy hands, or Strickland's got a weak jaw, which I don't believe. So in this Adesanya fight, it was almost like he went 4 rounds without unloading at all. It was almost like it was a game plan. It was almost like he was waiting. And he came out in that 5th round and absolutely lumped Israel all over the shop. And I've seen the Israel interview with Ariel Helwani. It's sad. It's kind of sad.
Because of, like, you know, I was rocked there as my foot. And again,
I've got mixed feelings about Israel. I think he's a fantastic fighter. And I like 50% of his takes on things. I don't understand the burping. What the fuck is that? It's disgusting. And it's disrespectful. He did it in the post-fight interviews where a reporter asked him a question and he just like belches and burps. And it's like, oh, excuse me. Like, okay, cool. He did it again on the Helwani show. It was like, yeah, I've just come off hot ones, and he leaves out this ripper. It's like,
I mean, 2 big shots, and I'm like, okay, lateral move. Excuse me. Excuse me. Thank you.
Where? I don't know, man. I teach my kids not to do that. It's disgusting. You know, most people get taught not to do that, especially when you're live on TV and you just got hockeyed all over the octagon. So I don't know what that's about. His takes on 50% of the things I would agree with. I think it's a very telling narrative and the disparity of media output when it comes to Israel Adesanya. Because when he defends Joe Rogan and he says, absolutely not, Joe Rogan's a fucking legend and he's no racist, media silence. When he comes out and he calls out the likes of the despicable, despotic Ghislaine Maxwell for her horrific crimes that no one else wants to talk about, surprise, surprise, the MMA media don't want to talk about it either. But when he gets lumped all over the octagon, comes out with the most extreme display of copium talking about it was my leg, man. It was my leg. Yeah, Alex turned some kicks and fair play to him. He did the groundwork and it showed dividends getting him calf kicks in early. But I wasn't rocked. Nope. I didn't get rocked at all. I was actually ducking and diving, and I was actually completely cohesive, and I knew exactly what was going on. That's copium. Absolute copium. And when he comes out with that sort of narrative, all of a sudden the media just join in. It's like, okay, we can run with this, and it'll give you a good idea on exactly who to trust and who not to trust. Brendan Schaub has come out and said that he couldn't beat anyone in the top 5. Let's have a little listen to see what else he said.
Khamzat tweeted out, was like, I'll fight at 85, I'll be your champ. Now if the UFC actually want Khamzat to be that big of a superstar at 70 and 85, your next fight's gonna be Khamzat versus Alex Pereira.
Okay, I'm going to pause it there because, again, this is offensive. Again, this is Schaub's putting out these crazy narratives, which I've commented on him doing it before. So when he starts to dick ride like he's done with Conor and like he's doing right now with Khamzat, he starts to get outlandish. And this is where he starts being found out as an MMA pundit. And I do think he knows what he's talking about. I think he's a really good businessman, and I do enjoy his content overall throughout the years. But in this case, and I guess a few other cases, it's like, dude, come on. What are you thinking? What are you thinking? There about 2 months ago, you said that Khamzat was definitely going to be the champion at welterweight, at middleweight, and light heavyweight. No problem. He can rip through everyone. I can't see anybody stopping him. And here we have him up on the top of his dick again, banging on about he'd just go in there and he would ragdoll Pereira. Terrible fight. UFC won't do it because it disrespects the legacy of Israel Adesanya. Why are we not talking about it in the context of, could Khamzat go into the octagon with Israel Adesanya and tear him all over the place? It's kind of a delusional take, and there's a lot of them floating around. We had Robert Whittaker talking about Khamzat 2 weeks ago, saying that his hands and his boxing was another level to Colby Covington. And he said that Khamzat was a terrible matchup for Colby Covington because of the wrestling styles. And Chael called him out on it, and then he doubled down and in some sort of reprisal on a podcast last week, and still sounded incohesive and unintelligible, just like I think Schaub's take will sound in a few weeks' time as well. We'll see what happens with the Khamzat Pereira. Obviously the UFC are not going to do it, so why is it okay for the narrative to switch to Pereira can't beat anyone in the top 5? They're not going to give him Khamzat. Khamzat is beating everybody. He is beating everybody, according to the lads here. He's beating everyone. He's running through everybody. He couldn't run through Gilbert Burns. That just didn't happen. And then we were gaslit into thinking that Gilbert Burns was a fucking beast, man. He's a top level guy, man. You can't beat these top level guys, even though he got dropped by Dan Hooker, whom a 6-year-old would beat. Easy. So there's levels to this, man. It's like, ugh, Jesus Christ. I mean, we're living in a world where we get total lies on a daily basis, and we are just supposed to eat it up and move on with our day. And we have the MMA shills doing it on a regular basis, but in this case, I think it's disrespectful to Alex Pereira.
Khamzat beats the shit out of him. He mops the floor. Again, I'm not taking anything away from Alex. This is all about...
I'm not taking anything away from Alex. But dude, you've got no chance against Khamzat. You're going to get the shit beat out of you, man. I'm not taking anything away from you, man. Please don't come and beat the shit out of me. But Khamzat beats the shit out of you, man, because I love him, man.
Matchups and styles, and that's a complete nightmare for him. The UFC's not going to do that because then it discredits Izzy's kind of entire resume, right? Because then... And
I mean, if we jump over here, you have cocksure Khamzat demands easy money fight against Alex Pereira. UFC champion responds. And it's like, easy money fight. I think it's kind of disrespectful for everybody in the media, especially MMA media, to be jumping on board and taking pops at Alex Pereira, especially given the fact that he's the world champion right now. He's the world champion right now, and everything seems to be caveated with no disrespect to Alex Pereira, but he wouldn't beat anyone in the top 5. No disrespect to Alex Pereira, but he's going to lose in the rematch to Israel Adesanya. No disrespect to Alex Pereira, he'd get beaten by Khamzat Chimaev easily. So it all seems to be caveated with this. There's no disrespect, but basically we're just disrespecting you because we got a narrative to push, and that's basically what we're going to do. If I was Alex Pereira, I'd be really upset with the UFC. I'd be really upset with these media shills. Because of the order of things, who's going to call out the media? Who's going to call out the ex-fighters? All these shills whose opinions, whilst they're interesting to listen to, don't hold too much weight because they jump up and down and they follow the narrative. They follow the sheep. It's all about conformity with these guys. It takes a bigger guy to stand out and actually make a call that no one else wants to talk about. And it's quite ironic that these people call themselves journalists, but they have this firewall in front of them where it's, listen, no disrespect, but you're shit and you get beaten. But these guys don't want to do the work in terms of real journalism, especially within the MMA society and the community. You know, there's plenty of stories that have happened in the last week that could have been called out. Plenty of stories that should be front and center. You know, but where are these guys? Where are these guys? These two guys are too busy lapping up everything that Israel Adesanya and Kamaru Usman says. You know, they're too busy talking about the Nigerian nightmare, and they don't give a fuck about the fact that people aren't even allowed to have an American flag on their hat walking out to a weigh-in. That's irrelevant. They don't care about that. They care about shilling. They care about conforming. And as I said, for me, it's totally and utterly disrespectful to the new champion, Alex Pereira. Let me know your thoughts down below. Maybe share out the video. I appreciate it. Cheers.